just before maybe we get started, really pleased that Martyn invited me to speak to the trade aid members. And I know, having spoken to Martyn and then haven't seen the survey, how many of the members were struggling with commercial issues, some financial, some commercial, just and especially around systems to grow their business, Martyn. Yeah. So I think hopefully what I'm going to share tonight will give some real clarity onto how you can take your business to the next level. And really the bedrock of it is about installing commercial systems in your business. I just take your mic on.
Yeah.
So on there.
Yeah.
No, take your mic off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming back to you. Okay. So I'm Stephen Duggan. I'm I guess founder of Subcontractor OS. This is something that's been a passion of mine for a while, and that's teaching businesses how to stop losing margin, get paid on time, and really run their business like a tier one contractor. Oh, and what I mean by that is, if you think about the major contractors, the CISCs, the BAMs, the big players, they all function to really robust commercial and financial systems. And I believe that's really why they've been so successful, knowing what I know now. So I guess if many of you were to take a reflection moment on where you're at now in the business, I think a lot of people in the group are doing really well, but you probably know that you could be making more. And I know from my own experience and having been in the Construction Industry Federation for a number of years and working with so many subcontractors over the years, a lot of people are spending too much time chasing what you're ultimately owed from contractors and clients. And certainly a lot of people are getting underpaid. So the reason for that generally, I find, is you're commercially underprotected. And the reality is it is costing companies a lot of money in unpaid variations, dayworks, delayed decisions, damage to your works caused by other subcontractors, and overloaded final accounts that are being pushed back to the end. And all of this is quietly eroding your margin. And it's not unusual. It's actually way more common than you think. So on this webinar, what I want to do is give you an understanding that it is possible to install a commercial system that you can operate even without a QS or a commercial team. But if you have a QS, you're going to make them way more effective, and they're going to be able to handle much more complex legal and commercial matters. It's going to get you certified and paid faster, and especially stop things piling out towards the final account, which is a real cash flow killer for subcontractors. It's going to protect your margin on every job. It's going to help you work with bigger contractors, and most importantly, be able to deal with them contractually and commercially. It's going to help you build a business that's easier to run and more profitable without chaos. So by the end of the session, you'll hopefully walk away with a new perspective that protecting your profit is not about working harder. It's about installing a commercial system in your business. So I've done a lot of things right. I've got to a reasonable position in the industry, but I've also done a lot of things wrong. And I've really discovered a lot of what I'm about to share on this training the hard way. I can promise you that. I guess you get to cheat and hopefully avoid or mitigate or manage some of the issues the easy way. So we all know what the hard way is in this industry. It's working and getting variations unpaid. It's getting your valuations cut with no control or no real explanation. It's paying for delays in terms of your time and your resources that you didn't cause, but you're footing the bill, because subcontractors are the ones with the labor, the plant, the materials, and the resources on site. Almost all contractors and developers these days are just project managers. You're dealing with final account deductions with no explanation. The main contractor that expects you to pay for delays and damage caused by other subcontractors. You're in disputes, but your paper trail is letting you down, and you're not making as much as you deserve from your business. So I want to tell you about my backstory, and then I'll explain why am I doing this. So I lost €70,000 on one job because I trusted an email instead of understanding the contract. So this is back in Bautzen in Germany in 1996. I'm a young, new subcontractor in a dry lining business that I'd established with another guy. We walked onto a job and we were a labor-only subby, and I had a team of 22 guys. And the material that was supposed to be arrived hadn't turned up yet. So the main foreman convinced me to set out the building while I was waiting for the metalwork. And stupidly, instead of putting in a dayworks claim, I agreed that we would get an enhanced percentage complete on the first valuation. based on the setting out. So very naively, I spent 3 weeks setting out this massive hospital building with a team of 22 guys, completely unproductive. Eventually, the metalwork came. I boarded up a bit of stuff, put my valuation in 100 grand at the end of the first month. Never forget the feeling in the pit of my stomach when I got the SMS to say 30,000 had been lodged into my account. I remember ringing the PM on the job, and he said, "Look, I'm sorry, what I'd agreed with you was overruled by the commercial manager." And it was at that point that I realized doing the job is not enough because I had no commercial system. And because I put myself in that position, I had no leverage. Because what I didn't know then is the contract that I'd signed overruled everything that I'd agreed on site and even confirmed in an email. It was full of clauses that I hadn't spotted, and I had no system to track or enforce my commercial position. And that's when I learned the mistake that I'm going to talk about over and over in this webinar. Hard work doesn't get you paid. Knowledge and commercial systems do. So at this point, it was a real epiphany moment. When the recession hit in Germany in 99, 2000, I wound down the business and I came back to Ireland, and I was determined that not only was this not going to happen to me again, any company that I worked for or advised wouldn't suffer the same fate. So I went back and I studied law. I became an expert specifically in construction law. And over the last 25 years, rose through the ranks. I've ran one of the largest subcontract fit-out businesses in Dubai. We were a $30 million business. I'm a construction law expert. I lectured in Trinity College in construction law. I was the CIF's, the Construction Federation's in-house legal advisor, dealing with disputes for small subcontractors and contractors. I've been a commercial manager in a group turning over €1.5 billion a year, and I'm currently managing director of a 50 million contracting and a much larger development company here in Ireland. So most coaches have never sat in your chair. I've seen the chaos from both sides. I've been a small subcontractor, a massive subcontractor, main contractor, commercial director. And I believe, okay, the Irish construction industry, the construction industry in general, survives off a strong subcontractor base. And I actually think it's a disservice if main contractors are using the contract to treat subcontractors unfairly, because ultimately the whole industry, housing delivery, our built infrastructure depends on a strong subcontractor base. And that's ultimately why I've built what I'm sharing with you today, is to protect subcontractors in the industry. Oops, we've gone straight back to the end. Sorry about that. So I guess having said that, the big realization that I want you to come off this webinar, as I say, hard work doesn't get you paid, systems do. Why do franchise business function so well? Why do the main contractors, why do the tier one contractors function so well? They have systems in their business, because you cannot rely on verbal promises. Good relationships are working hard. You need a system that logs instructions, sends the right notices, tracks delay and disruption, protects your margin, makes cash flow predictable, and most importantly, makes your business easier to run. Because the moment I stopped relying on trust and started relying on systems, honestly, everything changed in my business. So what I'm about to share has been built and gathered from 25 years of leading commercial strategy across subcontracting, main contracting, and development, legal expert in construction law. And I estimated when I did this presentation that I've personally overseen about $3 billion in subcontract packages. And I've sat on both sides of the table as a sub and a main contractor. And I know really at a deep level where money leaks, how risk moves, and what it takes to protect your margin. So I'm really excited. And this system that I'm about to share hasn't just worked for me. It's been implemented in dozens of businesses across 11 countries. The tactics that I'm about to share are not really time dependent. They've been the foundation of construction law and commercial strategy for years. And it's helped many, many business owners like Shane here put the basis that they need, the kind of foundation to grow their business profitably. Now, this is a statistic that's really the sobering one. Nearly 28% of construction insolvencies in the UK and Ireland are directly linked to late payments, and 72% of subcontractors report payment delays, and a huge percentage of you that answered the survey were reporting being paid late, getting certified late, not getting paid your variations in your dayworks. And it's not just that you're getting paid late, that's bad enough. More and more again, you're getting paid less than what you're owed. I spoke to a major subcontractor only this week, and a typical story told me gets to the final account, he's 300,000 worth of signed day works, but because he didn't have the right system to submit and substantiate, and most importantly, enforce payment as he went through the contract on interim payments, he's now at the end of it and he's owed 300,000 and the contractor's offering him a small percentage of it. And the three things that I want you to learn in this webinar, which I'm about to talk about now, secret number one is you're not being underpaid because of your work. You're being underpaid because you don't have a system. The second secret is you will never work with bigger contractors until you think like one. And the third is you don't need a full-time QS. You need a system that can be delegated and ultimately, once it's up and running, can be run in less than an hour a week. So most subcontractors lose margin, not from poor performance, but from poor paperwork, missed notices, late submissions, and on-track day works. And what's the fix? It's a commercial system that ensures you actually get what you've earned and it gets paid. So this is the big myth in our industry. If I just do good work, I'll get paid. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about an adversarial relationship or that trust shouldn't be important or that relationships aren't important. Of course they are. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you're going to get paid. So most subcontractors, honestly, I believe, especially when they're starting out or in the early stage, believe that doing good work will naturally lead to payment. But the reality is it's not going to protect your margin. Contractors and clients are not operating on goodwill. They're protecting razor thin margins and often withholding cash. If you think about the main contracting model that you work for, this is contractors that operate on margins, net margins of 3%. So if you're coming with an increase in your contract sum that you can't substantiate, validate, and most importantly, enforce, they're going to do everything in their power to try and deny you payment for that work. So the reality is your work is very often not your problem. Your paper trail is. You're not losing margin because of your quality. You're leaking cash because of missed notifications, unsubstantiated variations, delayed day works logs, no proper sign-off, no system for forcing payment, especially in term, and chasing payment instead of preventing underpayment. And that's the really thing. This is about being proactive and enforcing your payment during the works as it's happening, improving your cash flow and your margin and not letting it pile up. And that was the one thing that I saw in the Construction Federation. And I actually spoke to a subcontractors in this position this week, and that is they do stuff on goodwill. So I remember when I was in the Federation, we had this contractor, a groundworks contractor, and he was doing work digging a basement in an existing building, got onto site, there wasn't the electrical cables hadn't been diverted. So naively, on instruction of the foreman, this guy goes in and starts hand digging around all of these live surfaces with a team of 6 guys, gets in a mini digger, all on day works, all signed by the foreman. They let him work on that basis for about 12 weeks, gets to the end of the 3 months, puts in his, now he'd been claiming and they'd been paying him a figure on account. And at the end of the 3 months, the project quantity surveyor gets out and remeasures the whole thing at bill rates. And the guy was out 100, 200,000. I can't remember the actual number. And everything that had been agreed with the foreman, with the project manager went out the window because they didn't have the authority to issue an instruction under the subcontract. And the commercial manager just threw it out, just like my claim in Germany. And if you think it's about just doing the right thing, I'm going to give you 2 legal cases that prove otherwise. So in Mears versus Shoreline Housing, Mears carried out additional works based on verbal instructions, and the court ruled that only written instructions from the authorized contract administrator were valid. And that's the person under the contract who's actually authorized to issue instructions and variations. And because they didn't follow the process, no payment was due. So they were out God knows what. So what is it really costing you? Over a year, even just losing 5% on variations, day works and retentions on a 1 million turnover is €50,000 gone. All from cracks in paperwork, process and timing. Now, can you imagine fixing that with just one system? And in my program, which I'll explain later, there's a whole module about disruption. And I call it the hidden margin killer on projects, because you might stand back from this and think, well, there's no way I'm losing 5% on variations. I get paid my variations. I get paid my day works. But more often what you don't recover is you arrive on site, the work area isn't available, the scaffold isn't up, the materials are not there, there's other subcontractors in your way, you're awaiting information, instructions from the main contractor, they ask you to actually dislocate them. All of that is completely obliterating your productivity. And that's where I'm talking about the 5%, not just on variations and dayworks. Now, what do? 99 times out of 100, subcontractors don't have a system to identify delay, to build a substantiative case, to submit it in the right time, to use not just the contract, but the Construction Contracts Act, as in legislation, to enforce payment and to put the contractor in a position where contractually they have no option, legally they have no option. Never mind morals, never mind relationship. I'm talking about they have to pay you. That's what I'm talking about, where your margin is going. So you already know about unpaid variations, but as I said, the real killer is you're covering the cost when the main contractor damages your work, other subcontractors damage your work, you're asked to remobilize or fix issues that you didn't cause, all because you don't have a system to prove and substantiate the disruption, and you're just expected to eat the cost. And this is something that I want to change. So with the right system, not only will you get paid what you're owed on your measured work, you'll get paid for your delays, you'll get paid for your variations, you'll recover your retentions, you'll no longer absorb delay costs caused by others. You'll issue legally compliant delay notifications using built-in templates and AI prompts, and back them up with photographic evidence and disruption logs. Your disruption is documented, priced, and completely claimable. You'll recover lost time and lost profit, and you'll protect yourself legally before a dispute even arrives. So if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat box. I know I'm going through this quite quickly, but I'm really keen to keep this to an hour, and I'll ask any or answer any questions that are asked at the end of it. So this is about a system that's tracked, helping you recover every single thing that you're entitled to. No more doing a deal on unrecorded work. If you do a deal, it'll be because it's a commercial decision you'll make. It won't be because you're not able to enforce your entitlement. So Subcontractor OS is going to give you a system for live day worksheets issued via your mobile device, real-time tracking and sign-off from your foreman or PM, linked to your interim valuations for full claim. No more piling everything up, as I said, for the final account. Every unplanned work item becomes billable. No more handwritten, unsigned, or lost records, recovering 100% of your costs and labour. Forget chasing retentions for 6 or 12 months, because you'll have a QA/QC system that records that your work was complete to standard. You'll have a system for forcing the main contractor to give you a PC cert for your works. You'll have a system for forcing the contractor to give you a final certificate, triggering the release of your retentions. Automatic and automated alerts, follow-ups, and templates to release funds, putting the contractor in such a tight position commercially and contractually, they have to release your retention. It's a contract formula to force payment, not just in terms of retentions, but your monthly valuations, making sure your variations and dayworks, even your materials on site, which again is eating up your cash flow. Your retentions are claimed on time every time. You stop leaving 10, 50K per project stuck in limbo, improving your cash flow significantly without more effort. So that's the power of implementing a commercial system for every single function of the contract. The second thing is you'll never work with bigger contractors until you think like one. One of the things that Martyn said over and over again to me, Martyn, is members want to work with bigger contractors. Now, it's so enticing, okay? You've had success at a certain level. You want to work on bigger projects. I can assure you, right? I said this in a short video I shot the other night, right? Growth eats cash flow, and a lack of commercial systems will kill your cash flow, and it can take you out like that, because bigger jobs require bigger systems, not just more turnover. And I can assure you, if you start working with the bigger contractors or developers and you don't have a system for identifying onerous or unfair clauses, a system for protecting you commercially, all of the things that I've just mentioned, they're going to eat you alive, because their function is to make sure that all of the risk that they want transferred across to you is done through the contractually, then they want to make sure that they protect their position, even if they're the ones delaying you and their subcontractors are disrupting you, their scaffold isn't up to help you work productively. So working with tier ones isn't just about doing the work, it's about surviving their contracts, protecting your margin, and proving every cent that you're owed. So if you have a system, you're going to be able to take on more prestigious projects because you'll have the confidence. And most importantly, you'll have the formula. It's actually staggering, right? I oversee hundreds of payments to subcontractors every month in the current business that I work for, which is a substantial business. Subcontractors submit their valuations late. It blows my mind. All main contractors have a very strict payment cycle that they work towards. The first thing is they don't get their valuations in on time. The second is they're not documented in the right way. They're not substantiated. They're putting on unsigned dayworks, variations without the right backup. And there's little nuances commercially. If you don't follow, it's just giving the main contractor a free card to just deduct your payment or refuse to certify, and it's putting you further and further on the back foot. But having the system that I'm about to share with you will allow you to take on more prestigious projects, allow you to take on bigger packages, allow you to increase your turnover. But it's not just about getting the work. The problem and the challenge is getting paid, and not just getting paid for the work, but getting paid what you're truly owed. So you're doing good work, but you haven't been trained, most people, and even those working with freelance QSs, unless you've got an expert like John Conroy, I see, who joined the group today, who's a commercial and contractual expert, but your average QS doesn't understand these commercial things. Now, if you give them this system, they will, but your average QS or your freelance QS is looking after 10 or 15 subbies. They don't know how to spot hidden traps in contracts. They're not available 24/7 for you, so you don't follow the notification procedures. They often don't have the time to substantiate your variations or delays, or to protect your work from other trades, or to build a defendable commercial file. But with a system and using AI and templates and prompts and standard procedures, you will, even without a QS, you'll be able to do it. So you could lose 70 grand like I did, or spend years studying construction law, or you could install a ready-made commercial system now to protect yourself from day one, and most importantly, work confidently with bigger clients. So one of the things I hear all the time is, yeah, I'm submitting variations. That's not the problem. The main contractor isn't paying it. And it's like chicken and egg scenario. Well, why do you think the main contractor isn't paying it? Or why do you think they're building up towards the final account? It's because you don't have a right system to trigger contractual entitlement. It's binary. I often say it's not a matter of opinion. It's not a matter of whether the contractor wants to pay. If you follow the right process contractually and commercially, they have to pay. And if you have the right system to notify on time, to substantiate on time, to put the right documentation to show that on the balance of probabilities, this was a variation or a disruption event or an entitlement, and you've followed all of the steps that I've outlined, and the main contractor doesn't pay, and you have a system for escalating it up through the contract and eventually the Construction Contracts Act, not only will they have to pay, but they'll have to pay all your costs. And when they realize that they're not dealing with an amateur or a naive subcontractor, that's when you start to get the respect. That's when they start to pay your variations, because they know they can't push you around. And that's the power of having a system. And it isn't just templates. What I'm about to show you is a holistic system that integrates quality sign-off with variation substantiation. I remember 25 years ago, okay, we were building in Wexford. I worked for a contractor at the time, one of the largest jobs in Wexford. It was a 30 million contract, and this is in 1998, 2000. And we employed this massive Polish subcontractor to do the concrete works. And I was the commercial manager, and he was asking our team to sign off his works. I was like amazed by this. And I came and I met him and I was like, Igor, Piotr, sorry, was his name. Why would you want us to sign off your works? And he's like, I want to protect me. I want to make sure that you don't come along later on and say I didn't finish it or it wasn't to the right standard. And he made us sign off every single thing that he did. And that gave him the protection. And it was such an epiphany to me. I'm going to give you AI-powered prompts. So the entire system is written so that you can utilize AI, even if you've got no clue of AI, or you're not computer literate, or you're not a paperwork guy. You're going to be able to, using specific prompts that I've written and that are in the program, you can write delay notices in literally a matter of a minute, letters, claims, notifications, cover letters for recovery of your retentions, or enforcing a variation payment, or following up on your valuations. You're going to have a system that links valuations, delay tracking, and retentions in one workflow. Standard operating procedures that you can delegate out to virtual assistants, which I'll talk about later, junior staff, and uses real structures like the Construction Contract Acts to escalate and enforce. It's what's going to protect every euro that you're owed before, during, and after. So the final secret that I want to talk about is you don't need a full-time QS. You need a system that can be delegated or run in under an hour a week. So the biggest challenge that most subcontractors have is you're not big enough to afford a full-time QS. So you rely on part-time QSs. Those part-time QSs are not available often to your business 24/7. And some of them, like I mentioned earlier, don't have the legal expertise unless they're like John or someone like me to do this type of thing. But if you know how to use a commercial system, and you've got the templates and the checklists and the tools, and most importantly, these artificial intelligence prompts, you can literally do everything that I'm talking about on less than 1 hour per week. And if you employ a virtual PA, which I'm going to talk about in a second, you can do this literally in real time. Because when I talk about a commercial system, most subcontractors get overwhelmed and they're like, I'm already too busy. I'll need a QS to manage all of this. But what you really need is a simple plug and play commercial system backed by templates, checklists, and workflows, exactly like the tier 1 contractors have. The first thing that I always do is install a commercial system into a business. So I worked for 11 years in Africa, and for a number of years I was group commercial director of a company called Griniker, which is the largest construction company in Africa, about a 2 billion pure construction company. And they were hemorrhaging money right across the company. And we probably had about 6 divisions and about 50 projects. We had a civil engineering, a mechanical, M&E division, a building division, piling divisions, a whole range of different, and they were hemorrhaging money right across the board. And the one thing that turned the business around is one by one, we started installing commercial systems throughout the business. And we gave them templates, checklists, tools. Then we trained all of the commercial team and the site teams on how to implement those systems. And we completely turned the business around. And that's literally the power of having an operating system, a commercial system. And most importantly, it can be delegated to a VA. So it's possible to hire qualified engineers that sit in the Philippines or in India that you can employ for usually about $8 an hour, that you can give this system to. And then all you have to do is, if you're on site and you encounter a delay event, let's say you're supposed to start work and the scaffold isn't up, you take a photograph, you do a voice note, you send it via WhatsApp, they upload everything that I've just described, and within a minute, they'll produce a fully documented, substantiated notice that goes off to the main contractor, and that starts the process of your entitlement to payment, and it hasn't cost you more than 2 minutes to do. So you don't need a lawyer or QS to draft rock solid notices. You won't even need to write them from scratch. We've built an AI-powered system and templates that let you draft delay and disruption claims like a top legal consultant, generate contract compliant notices in minutes, build detailed defensible claims from simple logs and evidence, and review contracts, most importantly, for hidden risk points. I did a delay and disruption claim using this exact system in less than 3 hours about 2 weeks ago. It was a 1.87 million euro claim, very complicated legal issue, something that would have taken me over 2 weeks to do prior. I genuinely, hand on heart, did in less than 3 hours. That's the power of using AI with this system. So what is the system like in real terms, in action? It's going to help you log issues. It's going to prompt you what to do. The AI, as you feed it information, drafts your notice, you edit and send, and your claim is legally sound and contractually bulletproof. So you'll get certified, paid, and protected without stress. And that's ultimately how you protect cash flow, margin, and peace of mind without a full-time QS. So at this point, I want to introduce the 3C method, the commercial system that tier 1 contractors use to maximize cash flow, protect profit, and scale without chaos. It's these 3 fundamental pillars that I've introduced in dozens of companies that I've managed, some of which I've owned, many of whom I've mentored with this system, the exact system I taught in Trinity College in Dublin on their construction law course for 7 years. And it's battle tested, it's proven. And when you introduce these three fundamental pillars, you have cash flow control, you have commercial protection, and most importantly, you've set yourself on the right commercial footing for growth of your business. So let's imagine something different at this point. You can spot contract traps before they bite. Your valuations get certified cleanly because they're structured, timely, and most importantly, unarguable. Your variations are tracked, priced, and submitted on time with supporting evidence. Delays are notified professionally, protecting your position without starting a war. And that's something I want to mention here. This isn't about turning you into a contractually and contentious focused business. One of the things that I'm most proud of is in all of the companies that I've worked, managed, and mentored, not one single subcontractor has gone to conciliation or adjudication or arbitration. And that's the power of having, I have this saying, good fences make good neighbors. And to me, the subcontract and the contract is a management tool. And it's about extracting what you're entitled to and what the main contractor is responsible to deliver. And yeah, you might have some arguments along the way, but it mitigates that big row at the end. And that's what most people don't want to do. They don't want to have the little arguments, but it always ends up in the big argument at the end. They don't have the difficult conversations. They don't force their position in little micro movements. And that means you have a big blowout at the end. But with this, you're going to enforce your position right throughout the contract so that you get paid monthly, not at the end. You do a deal maybe if you want, not because you have to. That's the difference of having all of this. So best of all, you can stop relying on hope, memory, or a junior QS, which I see over and over again, to protect your business. All right, so I've gone through this pretty quickly. We're half an hour in so far. I hope it's been time spent. If you've got any questions, please ask them in the chat box. I've covered a lot. The idea of this webinar is not to teach. I couldn't even begin to teach what's in this system in an hour. But what I really wanted to do was explain in a bit more detail what you would get if you sign up for Subcontractor OS, because we've been getting, Martyn, a lot of DMs about this. A lot of people asking, and I guess it is a confusing concept, like what is a commercial system? So I'll explain it now. So I've spent literally the last, I think, 6 months of my life building out Subcontractor OS. I had a lot of it in different guises. As I said, I've implemented this, but primarily in main contracting businesses. But I've helped hundreds of subcontractors with their commercial issues over the years, especially from my time in the Construction Federation as their in-house legal expert. And I identified the 9 core things that they're struggling with usually. The first is getting their valuations certified and paid on time, their variations, their dayworks, their retentions, their delay and disruption, building a quality management system that enforces that they get paid, ensuring that they get their defects, liability confirmed so they can release their retentions later on. So I built that in 9 standard operating procedures and modules. There's 80 ready-to-use templates, trackers, and logs. You can literally download this, put your own logo on it, and start implementing it in your business almost straight away. You're going to have contract compliance tools and dashboards. With this system, you can literally scour a contract in less than a minute using AI prompts to automate your commercial administration. The big thing that I've designed is quick win roadmap. I want you getting paid your variations, recovering your retentions, fixing your margin leaks, not in months, in less than 30 days. And it's been designed to help you achieve that. And for those that are interested, it has a built-in delegation system, so you can install it without hiring a full-time QS. Now, I'm not anti-QSs. I'm a trained QS myself, and I've been a surveyor, a senior surveyor, a managing surveyor, a group commercial director. But the reality is QSs are expensive. It's an overhead that many subcontractors can't afford. And I've designed it in a way that you can actually do this without it. So when I install this as a system, it's usually $5,000. But there's a bonus that I wanted to offer, and that's really, we want to make this a transformation in your business. I don't want to just give you information because that's overwhelming. So what we're going to do over an 8-week period is twice a week, we're going to jump on a Zoom call. I'm going to teach you how to implement each module in your business. And most importantly, we're going to hot desk. If you've got a variation dispute or a day work dispute or a contractual issue, we're going to hot desk it. We're going to workshop it. And I'm hopefully going to be able to help you get this system not only implement it in your business, but resolve whatever issues that you're having. It's no fluff, no filler, just hands-on commercial mentoring. And we think that's worth at least 1,500. Then you're going to get our full AI toolkit. So you can produce delay letters, payment notices, disruption and variation claims, contract clarifications, risk logs and substantiation templates, all generated with construction-specific AI prompts. Currently, as I record it, I'm not aware of anything in the world like this. It's cutting edge. Then we're going to give you our virtual assistant handover pack. I'm going to teach you how you can hand over all of this to a virtual PA that you can hire for €8 an hour. The minimum hire is 20 hours a week. So for literally €160 a week, you can have someone that's going to do everything for you. A qualified engineer in the Philippines that can do your measures, your valuation, substantiate your dayworks, your variations. All of that system can be done by a virtual assistant. Again, priceless. The retention recovery system showing you exactly what and when to trigger to substantiate, how to notify, so you can enforce what you're actually owed. And then as a bonus, I'm going to give you a masterclass. So on one of the weeks, we're going to do a deep dive. I think it will take at least 3 hours, and I'm going to walk you through an exact system that I used to win hundreds of millions of tier 1 contracting and subcontracting work. And I'm going to show you a case study. And when I say a case study, I'm going to show you step by step how I did it, where I grew one company from 12 million to 55 million in 3 years with an average margin on contracted work of 14.98% net profit across all of those projects. And you'll walk away with the full framework of how to price, position, and protect yourself, and you can implement it in your own business. I mean, that workshop is probably worth at least $2,000 on itself. And it's only available on this launch for the Trade Aid members. So what you're getting on the system is the Subcontractor OS training system, the step-by-step training. You can watch it, your team can watch it. If you hire a virtual assistant, they can watch it. My full commercial toolkit with the prompts, our virtual assistant handover and delegation pack, the retention recovery system, 8 weeks of live mentoring, 10 weeks including the 2 bonus modules, and the mega bonus, how to win work with larger contractors. If you want to grow your business, the commercial system with this business growth strategy I'll share is what you need. I mean, if somebody was to come in and I was to do this in your business, you're looking at a minimum, if you add up all of that, at €27,000. Now, obviously, I'm not going to charge that. That would be unaffordable for most people on this. So we're not going to charge 27,000, not even 10,000. In fact, not even the regular price of this program of 5,000, because this is a one-time, never to be repeated launch offer exclusively for Trade Aid members. For full disclosure, Martyn's brought me in as a co-partner and director of Trade Aid, and I wanted to give something back.
Yeah.
So this is a program that I sell for $5,000 normally, but for Trade Aid members, for this launch only, it's going to be available for a one-time payment of €2,000 or 3 monthly payments of €700. So if anyone's got any questions at this point about the system, about what I've covered, please ask them in the chat box. So what will happen is Monday, so not this Monday coming, but the following Monday, we'll start the program. If you pay, you'll get access to it earlier, but then there's 10 weeks of live mentoring, huge amounts of accountability, a special WhatsApp group where everyone's going to go through what I honestly believe will be a complete business transformation for many companies, because this is not about information. That's not the point of it. This has to be something that's of value to you. So what's €2,000 worth? 1 variation recovered, 1 day work paid, 1 retention recovered. I mean, how much genuinely would you pay to get your life and business in complete control? You know, I used to be a mentor on the Wexford County Enterprise Board. I used to go into businesses, and the one thing that I always felt is people just wanted to feel like they were in control of their business. People wanted to take their business to the next level, but they weren't sure how. Well, I guarantee you that this will help. So generally, if I come in and do a day one-on-one workshop, it's €5,000 for me to teach this system. And most importantly, I really want to emphasize this. This has been designed for busy subcontractors. You will literally be able to, as you go through the program, the maximum amount you're going to have to spend is 2 hours a week. learning and implementing this in your business. Now, I'm not talking about if you have to value or substantiate variations or do anything later on, but to watch the material is 2 hours. The workshops then are discretionary. We would recommend you come on them. It's probably going to be another 2 hours a week. So yeah, it's an intense 10 weeks, but it's a business transformation. And at the end of it, you can pass all of this out to a resource for less than €10 an hour. So again, just to cover, you're going to get cash flow control. So typically, you'll see a huge improvement in cash flow over time. The compounding effect of getting your valuations, your variations, your dayworks, recovering your retentions, the delay disruption. You know, one client recovered 37 grand in 3 weeks, another 65. That's not unusual. If you've got long-standing disputes, you'll be able to implement this. If you've got existing variation disputes, there's whole modules actually teaching you how to backdate this. So if you're recovering retentions or if you're recovering, now it's not ideal, but it will teach you how to go back and get your variations and your dayworks and whatever other issues you have. It's going to help you protect your commercial position. It's going to give you a commercial growth roadmap. I'm going to teach you on that bonus case study, how I grew one company. And I've done this dozens of times, to be honest, because it's a formula. It's not something that's not predictable. If you do the inputs that I'll teach you will produce the outputs. The bottom line is it's a complete system in your business. So I guess at this point, you've got two choices. You can do nothing. I hope you've enjoyed the information. I hope it's been of value. Or you can make what's a reasonably small investment compared to the value. And if it works, great. If not, we're so confident. I'm so confident on this. There's a completely risk-free 30-day unequivocal guarantee. If for whatever reason, at even 29 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. This isn't about trying to harangue people into something that they're not going to get value from. I'm so confident you will, that I'm giving this completely quibble-free 30-day guarantee. So again, I've gone through this a few times. Is everything you're going to get? I see a few questions. So you might be thinking, well, do I need this now? Things are booming, things are flying. I can tell you now, right? We're one of the largest developers certainly in the southeast. We've got a pipeline of 850 units currently that's coming through the planning system, or that's going to site. 450 units currently right now going to site. Things are tightening up. The department just last Friday issued a directive that's going to impact what voluntary housing authorities are able to pay for developers for land, the land portion of the development. Jobs are slowing up because there's just so much friction in the system with plans. Contractors are pushing more risk down. Payments delays are increasing across the board. The industry is statistically due for another recession. It might be this year, next year. We just don't know. But the reality is it'll come at some point. Now's the time to spend the time implementing this system. You know, in the industry collapse in 2007, 40% of all business failures were construction firms. And those that survived simply had a commercial system in place to weather the storm. So I know what it's like. I've lost tens of thousands because I didn't have cash flow control. I've had valuations that dragged on for months because I had no system to protect my commercial position. I've had deductions I couldn't fight because I didn't understand my contract or what I signed. I've been up at night wondering how I'd make payroll, no visibility, no certainty, no control. I remember when I shut down my dry lining business in Germany, I was so burned out. I couldn't do anything for 3 months. I know how difficult it is. And that's why I knew something had to change. So 25 years ago, I started building the commercial system that I wish I had. One that gives subcontractors cash flow clarity, commercial protection, and profit recovery. And I promise you, Subcontractor OS is that system. If you're doing everything right on site, but still not getting paid what you're owed, I genuinely, sincerely believe that this is for you. And as one added extra final bonus, I don't do this often. I don't have the time to do one-on-one coaching anymore. That's why I'm doing a group coaching program like this. But for this one-time offer only, for the first 10 people that sign up by contacting Martyn. Martyn, you've shared the link in the group?
I haven't. I will.
Yeah, if you just share the link in the group, I'll do a one-on-one call. You can discuss whatever you want in your business. You might want to know how to grow your business. You might want some strategic advice around profitability. You might want to know how you can implement this more effectively in your business. It doesn't matter. That 1 hour can be utilized as you want, and it's a bonus for the first 10 people that sign up. So Is there a limit of, that's a really good question, Jason. It's an unbelievable offer. If you have a business and you sign up, you can put all the people in your business through this training. So I don't mind if you put 10 of your QSs through it. They just have to be employed by your company. And you can put as many people as you want through it.
And they'll also be able to join the coaching calls as well. So
yeah, as long as they're part of your company, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for your attention. I really appreciate your time. We're just on 45 minutes, so if anyone's got any questions, more than happy to answer them. Okay, cool. So just again, in terms of logistics, we're going to keep essentially cart open or open for the next few days. Then once we're locked and loaded and ready to go, it's Monday week that we'll start the program, but you'll get access as soon as you pay. You can start going through the material, downloading it. The next phase is, one of the things that's I think most exciting about this is it's going to be a real, as I said, feeling of movement, of transformation. So we're going to set up a separate group only for members of this program. You'll be able to not only ask questions, share commercial issues, and really feel a sense of momentum, a transformation, as I say. And my hope is that by the end of the second week of the program, people are sharing wins on the variations that we're covering, on the day works that they're getting paid. And we have a whole series of wins as we go through this program. It's been designed that way. Its intention, its sole reason for being is to achieve that result. So yeah, I'm passionate about it, as you can see. I've poured my heart and soul into it. Partnering with Martyn, I'm very excited. I hope it's going to be of value to Trade Aid members. And most importantly, it's going to help you, all of you that decide to sign up, take your business to the next level.
Yeah, like just on a side note, I've known Stephen for just over 4 months, and I've seen firsthand. Stephen obviously is the director with that tier 1 construction firm, and working with him, and how when Subcontractor OS is implemented, how it can save you thousands. I'm delighted to be working with Stephen. Also, I think there's massive value for the first 10 people, Stephen, to get access to yourself and obviously your own business mind. I think there's a huge value in that. So for the first 10 people that get that one-to-one business mentor, I think it's massive value.
Yeah.
I've seen that myself over the last 3 to 4 months we've worked together.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've probably helped over 40 companies grow their businesses. I've helped a number of companies go past 50 million, scale past 50 million euro. It's a formula. If you want business growth advice, if you want strategic advice on how to increase profitability or where you should be focusing your business, or you just want to ask questions about how you implement Subcontractor OS in your business, for the first 10 people, however you want to utilize that call. But I hope that people will get a lot of value from it, because, one of the most interesting and kind of profound quotes that I ever heard is Tony Robbins. If you want to be successful at something, find someone who's achieved the result that you want. And that's what I've done. I've some of this I've curated. Some of it is my own IP, but most importantly, I've leaned on the expertise of others. I've benefited from the expertise of others. I've personally spent over $40,000 on personal coaching and consulting to learn the strategies and tactics, not just commercially, but from a business strategy point of view. And it's amazing. One of my first mentors was Carl Fitzpatrick, who we all know from Business Matters in Southeast Radio. And Carl taught me the impact of sales, something I never really thought about as a construction professional. And our tender success or our project win rate at that stage was your typical 1 in 5. Sorry, it was 12.5%. What's that? It's about 1 in 8.
Yeah.
And we went from 1 in 8 to 1 in 4 just by implementing some of the sales tactics that I learned from Carl.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. We doubled our business. Doubled our conversions. That's the power of just following proven formulas,
Just to mention as well that obviously there's a massive discount, because when the course goes live, it's €2,000 for Trade Aid members, and that's exclusive to Trade Aid members. And when we roll this course out, it's going to be, €5,000 the current price.
Yeah, it'll
Anyone
never,
else outside of training it,
it'll never be repeated at that price. Yeah, it'll be a $5,000 program, and I stand over that price point. It's worth it.
Absolutely,
10%.
yeah.
If anybody doesn't get 100% ROI, or sorry, 100 times ROI over this program for the next couple of years, I'd be astounded.
Absolutely.
Genuinely, I would be astounded.
Yeah.
Okay, I really respect everyone's time. I hope I see you inside the members area. I hope I get to be part of the journey of helping you grow your business profitably. And I really thank you for taking the time to watch tonight.
And also heartily thank you, lads, to the traded members that did join. Really appreciate it, as always. And thanks for taking time out. I know everyone's busy. So thanks again.
Great.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Talk soon.